Top-end cycling computers are very expensive. This new Garmin Edge 1050 is a whopping $700, which is what you'd pay for an iPhone 13 these days. And when compared to a decent smartphone, the user interface on even the best cycling GPS computers is pretty clunky. They're often slow with few functions. So why not just use your phone? You've probably already got one after all. There are strong arguments actually for both, and you might be surprised with the outcome. Let's get right to it, starting with how these two stack up. So you might be thinking that it's an easy win for the iPhone when it comes to the stats. Not true, and I want to start here because it will give you a good idea of where each device is best. Now, the Garmin uses a much smaller screen. You can see that right here. And that's despite this one being one of the bigger cycling computers available. For me, this is as big as they need to be, especially for you to see your ride data and maps. But there is one thing that annoys me. Apple uses pretty much the entire device for the 6.1-inch Super Retina XDR display. The Garmin has these huge bezels, which are just ugly. Yeah, they do need to put the GPS bands in there, and I'll explain why that's important later. But this makes cycling computers look quite dated when you put them up against a modern phone. The iPhone smokes it on resolution, though in Garmin's defense, it is probably as good as it needs to be. It's not like you're watching Netflix or YouTube on your rides, although that would be quite cool, but quite dangerous. The Garmin has 64 gigs of storage, which is great for the maps that you'll need for navigation. And while this is half of the phone's storage, I'd still argue that it's good for the purpose of the device. The Garmin is actually a bit brighter in normal use than the iPhone, which does make it easier to read in direct sunlight, which I hope you'll be doing a lot of. No one loves riding in the rain, or I don't at least. And the Garmin also has a better battery life, a claimed 20 hours of what Garmin calls demanding use. I'm actually lucky to get a full day of heavier use out of the iPhone these days, but then the 3,227 milliamp hour battery is about 3 years old now. But then the iPhone is way more powerful. An A15 Bionic chip, which is like the brain of the phone. And then you've got these data points. And by the way, bigger numbers equals better in this case. All of that and a super nice display. It all is going to put extra strain on the battery, so it's no surprise that it drains a bit quicker. So those are the stats, but which is nicer to use? Let's start with the UI. The user interface, well, it matters. You might not realize it, but the way tech works in your hand is super important. The first thing that you do with a phone or a GPS computer is to set it up. And every day you're going to want to get right into doing what you're doing. If things take ages to load or the touchscreen is clunky, then it's just going to be frustrating. And that leads me on to my big gripe about, well, pretty much any cycling computer. Even the best, like this one, are like phones from about 2010. That is to say, they're a bit awkward to use. Garmin has actually made the 1050 pretty damn good to use, but if I gave you this and put it up against the iPhone, well, there's no contest. Cycling computers just aren't as smooth to use as phones. Hammerhead's Karoo 2 used an Android 8 operating system, which I have to say is the smoothest of all the cycling computers that I've tried, but it's still way off most phones. My phone is running the latest iOS and it is great. You can flick between apps, take photos, pay for stuff and do loads beyond recording just a bike ride. Even though this only has a 60 Hz refresh rate and most Android phones look way smoother, the iPhone still trounces the Garmin. But I doubt most avid cyclists buy a GPS computer for the UI. For most people, battery life on a cycling computer shouldn't actually matter. Let me explain. The Garmin Edge 840 I regularly use will do 2 weeks or about 16 hours on one charge. If you ride more than me, then obviously you'll charge more, but unless you're an ultra endurance rider, you'll get a few rides out of one charge. But let's just pause here. For most of us, it's so good to be able to go for your longest ride and not ever have to worry about running out of juice. Well, not computer juice anyway. Contrast this with the phone. I can't remember the last time I even got like 2 days of light use out of one charge. Maybe when the battery was new, but certainly not now. That's why I'm happy to see Garmin now pushing a bigger battery in there to serve a brighter screen and more powerful processor. They already have brilliant runtimes. Now they are pushing performance too. It makes a great combo that makes this 1050 fantastic to use. Using the iPhone for ride tracking was, well, it was less impressive. You're going to burn through the battery really fast. I went for a 30-minute spin and got through nearly half of the battery. Okay, so my phone is a few years old now and the latest phones will have bigger batteries, but that doesn't change the fact that the extra power of the phone, well, it drains the battery faster. But in terms of battery life, I think I can conclude by recommending you look at how long you'll be riding for. If you're simply heading out across town or you want to get half an hour on the bike for fresh air, then 100% stick with the phone. If you're going longer, well, the Garmin's make sense. Ride accuracy is also super important for a lot of riders. But my iPhone copes perfectly well with giving me directions while I drive, so is it good enough for cycling? Well, the short answer is no. I took both devices on a short ride, including a built-up area, open roads, and tree-covered paths. As you can see, the Garmin tracks me almost perfectly, whereas the iPhone, well, it's a bit all over the place. And if you want accurate elevation tracking, you absolutely want the Garmin. This is hands down a win for the cycling computer. But what if you just want an idea of where you went for Strava? Well, I'd say that the iPhone is perfectly good for an occasional ride. I've used mine a few times when my Garmin has died, and it just does the job. And let's be honest, using your phone for mapping is really easy, so using it to navigate across town is still a better solution in my eyes. But if GPS accuracy is important for you, as it is important for me, the cycling computer is the way to go. All right, if you're thinking that your phone is good enough for recording a ride, here are a couple of apps to do just that. Strava is the first, and it is very good if you just want to hit record and go for your ride. Yeah, you can connect a heart rate monitor, link your Spotify for some tunes, or the BikeRadar podcast, and even follow a route if you pay for premium. But you can't connect any additional sensors, even with a premium subscription, which is a bit annoying, and following a route on the Strava app is a pretty basic experience in my eyes. You just kind of get a breadcrumb trail with no turn directions, which isn't as good as Google Maps, say, or the Garmin's navigation. Then there is an app called Cyclemeter, which I really like. I've got the premium version, which is about £9 a year, and it's pretty good for customization. It allows you to connect more sensors for one, and it has a boatload of metrics, kind of just like the Garmin. But try as I might, I couldn't get the route function to work. Instead, I think the app to go for is Ride with GPS. The free version is honestly fantastic with a brilliant routing function and good metrics as standard. And then we come to additional features. And I don't think it will surprise you to know which one is best for certain tasks. The phone is best for calls, messaging, taking photos, and wasting your life away on Instagram and Twitter. But beyond basic metrics, unless you pay for premium, the phone apps won't show you much about your ride, and using them is a great way to drain your battery. The Garmin, meanwhile, features loads of useful cycling-specific data metrics and pages that you can use to enhance your ride, or not if these don't interest you. Personally, I have Climb Pro switched on so that whenever the road starts to go up, I know how long the climb is and all of its crucial stats so that I can kind of pace my effort a bit better. That said, some of the features like group ride and hazards on this latest Garmin are exclusive to this particular Garmin, so it will take a while, like a few years, before enough people are using them to make them useful. During his time reviewing the 1050, Ash didn't actually come across a single hazard that was marked by someone else. As more people use the device, you'll find more pothole notifications, but Ash did point out that this could tip into a time where, especially in the UK, the Garmin will be pinging up pothole notifications almost constantly. That wouldn't be great for a relaxing ride. Well, I don't think it will surprise you to learn that the Garmin and cycling computers in general are a better option for longer bike rides. If you're going to be out for more than an hour, this is the way to go. The GPS and elevation accuracy are just way better. The battery life lasts longer, and the cycling specific functions like Climb Pro and Strava Live are better here. But if you're maybe new to cycling and you do shorter rides or simply want to log them on Strava, then I honestly don't see the point of buying a cycling computer. The powerful computer in your pocket was perfectly good for the job. If you want to read Ash's full review of the new Garmin Edge 1050, well, we'll leave a link down below in the description. And if you have now thought, oh yeah, a cycling computer is for me, then we've got a guide about how to buy one. It's just right here. Go and watch that after you've liked, you've commented, and you've subscribed. We'll see you next time.